In today's video, I'm going over the exact tech stack and tools I've used to build split tests and funnels that have added multiple 7 figures in revenue for 7 and 8 figure e-commerce brands. These are the same tools I use routinely at my agency to work with e-commerce brands to build split tests, build funnels, conduct market research, find hypotheses, find split test ideas, and overall add revenue and make them more profitable with split testing and funnels. To make this easier, I'm going to divide the tech stack and the tools in 4 different categories. The first one being market research, arguably the most important point out of them all. So we're going to start first from all of the tools I use, like AI, for example, or the other tools I use to understand the customer avatar better, understand the market better, understand better the product, the niche, and things like that. So the first one will be market research. The second one will actually be split testing. So what tools I use to actually run and set up the split tests for e-commerce brands. And there's various tools here that are really good at that. The third one, and probably the most straightforward one, will be design. So we're going to go with design here. And then the fourth and last one will be development. So these 4 categories are really everything you need for building funnels and split testing. All of the tools in these 4 categories are obviously not mandatory. You don't need to specifically use these tools right here, but these ones are the best ones I've found from testing and building funnels for multiple 7 8 figure brands over time and adding a lot of revenue and making overall profitability better for these brands over the last 12 months. Let's go over the first category, which is market research, the most important one out of them all. All the other points are useless without this one. We could also probably add to here market research and copywriting. Copywriting is obviously also really important part of it. And how can we not start this section right here by mentioning AI? If you're not using AI, you're being left in the dust. Absolutely, there is no question at all about it. Here we have ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity. Usually the one I prefer out of these 3 is Claude, is my personal preference in terms of models. All of these 3 are good. ChatGPT and Claude kind of have the same function. Perplexity is much more geared towards research and finding sources and finding information. Claude and ChatGPT also do have those capabilities with the latest kind of updates they've made to the models, but I think Perplexity is still the best one out of these 3 for that. So ChatGPT and Claude are more geared towards writing copy, but actually finding out points, pain points, problems, objections, doubts, questions that your customer avatar or your target kind of market would have or could have about your product. What problems and what solutions do you need to solve, and what solutions you need to provide to actually solve those problems, and what mechanisms, and how do you need to actually portray and explain those mechanisms to your target market. And Perplexity to kind of more on the research side conduct information on your mechanism. How does your mechanism from a source point of view or actual functioning point of view helps solve a specific problem? So for that, those 3 are super important. What happens here is that a lot of people use these tools and say, but they do not provide good results, or the results are bad, or the outputs are bad. And the outputs you're going to get from these tools, from these models, are at the level of the inputs you provide. So the data you provide here is super important, and it's actually essential. Like the outputs you're going to get are going to be 100% dependent on the inputs you provide. So if you provide good inputs and good data, you're going to get good outputs and good results from them. If you are poor with the information you provide, with the inputs you provide, if you don't have data, you need to take a step back and actually get that data first to be able to get good results out of these tools, which is why I have 2 more tools here under the market research and copywriting category. They don't really fit here in the sense that they are strictly market research related, but they are more kind of user behavior related. The first one is heatmap.com. Big shout out to this tool. Is the only heat map tool that I found that actually tells you the revenue of every single click on your store. So you have obviously click maps, you have scroll maps, you have user recordings, but they also tell you exactly what elements on your store, on your page, are generating the most revenue. What do you need to prioritize and focus on by looking at the heat maps, by looking at the user recordings. You can understand a lot about your customer avatar, your target market, your kind of average user. How do they interact with your store? What do they click on? What hooks their attention more? You can understand a lot about that by looking at heat maps, and you can get a lot of data from it. The second thing, which is not a tool, but it's important to include it here in the kind of data you provide, the tools in the first row here, is obviously reviews. If you have a lot of customer reviews, you can just extract and get a CSV of all of your reviews and feed that information to your AIs when conducting market research, writing copy, and finding out pain points and solution to those pain points. And the third one, super important, I've added Zigpool here because I think it's probably the best and most straightforward app for user customer review surveys out there, at least on Shopify. But you can, I've put Zigpool because it's the most popular one, and I think it's the easiest one to use, but you could do this a million different ways. You could do your own surveys with type forms. You could do your own surveys with your emails in the backend with retention marketing. I've put Zigpool there as kind of a placeholder for it, but the important point here is customer surveys and in general surveys to your customer avatar and your customer base. They are super important. They do provide a lot of data. A lot of the split tests I come up with when split testing for clients come directly from looking at surveys and asking specific questions to our customer base. So again, here, surveys, post-purchase surveys, customer surveys are super important. And all of the data you get from heat maps, click maps, scroll maps, user recordings, customer reviews, customer surveys, you feed all of that information you get here to these three tools, to these AIs, to these models, and you can get a lot of great data out of them in terms of copywriting, in terms of headlines, in terms of even outside of split testing and funnels, in terms of making creatives, coming up with hooks and things like that. So this is the first and most important category here. Fairly straightforward in terms of tools. A lot of people already know and use ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity and all of these tools and heat maps and customer surveys, but the data is specifically the most important part out of this. If you do not give AI and models good data, which you get from all of the kind of second part of tools, then you will not get good outputs out of them. So this is super important. The actual approach I use to this tool is actually very straightforward, and I do have multiple videos of my channel, specifically the tutorials where I build advertorials, listicles, and sales pages. I have 3 specific long form videos where I build them, each one of those types of pages from scratch, where I show how I use AI to come up with headlines, keys, and the important points, objections, and questions we need to address and write copy about in those pages to make sure that our customer avatar is hooked and knows that we are providing the best solution and the best mechanism out there. So I'm going to leave all of these 3 videos here in the top right card. You can go look at them. I'm basically building from scratch all of those 3 types of pages, the most important, arguably, e-commerce funnels that you could build out there for your brand. So definitely go look at those videos to see how I use these tools to come up with these points. But the approach here is really straightforward. First, you harvest all of the data you need from the market and from these tools that I've mentioned. So heat maps, scroll maps, click maps, customer surveys, post-purchase surveys, customer reviews, all of that information. You structure it in a way where you can feed it to these models so they can go over it and actually give you the important points. The second category we're going to go over here is split testing. I have only 2 tools here because they're very situational. Based on your setup, you're going to use either one or the other. The first one, Intelligence, is the best split testing app for all stores and all brands that run on Shopify. I use it with every single brand that runs on Shopify. It's the best split testing app, bar none, and I'm actually partnered with them. My agency is partnered with them, so you can download Intelligence and go over their setup and their onboarding through my link in the description below. It's the best app if you run on Shopify. If you're not on Shopify and you run your store on different platforms and different kind of setups in the backend and the front end, whatever that may be, Convert.com is a much more general tool. So it's not just for Shopify or even e-commerce brands or e-commerce stores, but in general to split test for your business or your landing page or whatever it is that you do. So Convert.com is much more general, but that makes it a little bit more complicated if you want to implement it for your Shopify store. That's why I suggest Intelligence for all brands on Shopify. If you're not on Shopify, you're going to want to use Convert.com, which is also a great option here. Now, the third category is design. There is only one tool here because you don't need literally anything else. And it's the tool I'm using here to actually record this video and have this board here for the video, which is Figma. You don't need to use anything else. You can design anything you need to design for your brand here on Figma. There's also Canva, which is a great option, but I feel like Canva is much more kind of structured, so you need to follow a certain approach to get things done. With Figma, you have complete freedom to do anything you want. It's free to use. You don't need to pay for anything, and you can design anything with it. So there is nothing else you should be using here other than Figma. There's a little bit of a learning curve involved, but once you learn how to use it, and it's actually not that difficult. So once you learn how to use it, you can design anything you want for your brand. Now, there is definitely a part of inspiration involved when it comes to design. You can use a lot of these swipe files available out there. First one that comes to mind for me, for example, is Scrapbook, where you can find a lot of e-commerce and DTC landing pages and funnels to go over. But you can use any kind of swipe file that's out there that shows you what other big brands, 7, 8, and 9-figure brands are doing out there. So for inspiration, to get kind of a design idea of what different brands are doing out there, you can use all of the swipe files available for e-commerce funnels specifically. Now for the last category, which is development, we don't use any specific tools to build landing pages or funnels or split tests for our e-commerce clients, but we do everything with native code. So if you're on Shopify, we do that with Shopify Liquid directly in your theme. If you're on other platforms, we write code to do specifically what we need to do. It allows us the flexibility and it gives us the possibility to do anything we want and not be limited by the functionalities and the features of other apps, and also not making you pay for page builders or any other app you might need to build those things out. So we personally use code to build all of these things natively, but there are a lot of options you can use if you're not technical, if you don't know how to write code to build these things, and I have a lot of options here. If you want the kind of classic, more DTC based kind of style and approach, Replo Engine pages are perfect options to build landers, to build funnels, any types of page you want. Replo Engine pages are perfect. These are specifically for Shopify. For more kind of a direct response approach, if you want to go that route, which is definitely a good route to go on if you know how to write copy, if you're good at copywriting, you have page deck, you have funnelish, you have for checkout, you have more kind of direct response checkout with checkout champs. So you can definitely go with these options if you want more of a direct response approach for your brand. But all of these options are good, depends on specifically what you're looking for. If you want the most flexibility and the ability to do whatever you want, which is also some things you might not be able to do with tools at the bottom here, then code is definitely the way to go and the way we do it. If you're not technical and you want to build stuff fast without, like with drag and drop kind of things, without having to write code, then you can use Replo Engine pages for more of a DTC style and look. For more direct response type of funnels and pages, then page deck, funnelish, and for checkout champ are really good. And here you have it, the full breakdown of all tech and tools we use. In the description below, you're going to find 2 links, one for Intelligence and one for heatmap.com. We are partnered with them as a partner agency. I use these tools routinely and they are perfect for the job. So definitely go check them out and install them. Some of these tools are a little bit more technical than others to use. So I have a free gift for you. If you subscribe to my newsletter through the second link in the description, you're going to receive a 60-page PDF of my exact same split testing strategy, how you can implement it for your brand. And in there, you'll find included click-by-click tutorials on how to use these tools and set specifically up tests with Intelligence. With the first link in the description below, if you're doing over 80K a month in revenue or 7 figures in revenue per year, or you're getting more than 70,000 or 80,000 visitors per month, you can book a discovery call with me. And on the call, I'm going to show you how you can implement our split testing strategy that has helped multiple brands increase conversion rate, increase AOV, and increase overall profitability. How you can implement that same exact strategy for your brand on the call. See you in the next video.